All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. We are live. Okay. I have a very, very special guest. First of all, before we get into our awesome guest, thank you so much for showing up to the Provoke Coach podcast. So, whether you're watching this live or you're going to watch this later, you're going to listen to this episode, you're going to want to really tune in. You're going to want to take some notes today because I have a very special guest that I've been following for a while. Marc, thank you so much for being, a guest on our show. I know it was kind of short notice, but I needed you on because I've been following you for a bit. And guys, listen to this gentleman because he talks about something that, and it's a phrase that I cannot get out of my head since I started really following this guy and knowing that he was going to be our guest. It just stuck with me, and it's pretty powerful. So, Marc, thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. This is fun too, because it's live and, I have a podcast and I don't edit anything. I just throw it on out there, but there's a certain feeling when you know that it's live, and I don't care if one person's watching it or whatever, but I love the live feeling to this. So this is really awesome. I'm excited about this.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of fun. And what I told myself is that, when I started the podcast, what I really wanted to do is I wanted to share provoking stories of powerful people that are high performers, people that are kicking ass, right? But that, look, they know that they're maybe not to their full potential yet. They're people that seek to get better and better and better, like training themselves and right mentally, physically, but also, with their career and all the things that you've done. Like, I know there's a lot of people that are watching right now that, they might know who you are. They're your friends, they're your followers, they know your story. But there's going to be a lot of the people that maybe follow me or that follow, the guests that we have on our show that really don't know who you are. So, I'll give you an opportunity right now, kind of what's happening in the present day.
Yeah, so this is always intriguing to me when I say out loud all the things that I do, because in my head, I'm still like, I have this simplicity that I operate with mentally. And then I say it out loud. I'm like, oh, that's a lot of crap. So, I own a physical gym in Frisco, Texas. I do small group and personal training. So it's a very intimate environment. I'm personally working with every person that comes in that gym. I do online coaching for people. I got clients all across the nation. I do business coaching for fitness professionals specifically. So, last year when COVID hit, obviously a lot of gyms shut down. A lot of gyms never reopened. Let's be honest with it. Yeah. And there was a hole that needed to be filled. And I got a buddy of mine, Jonathan Loudermilk, who also works with other fitness professionals. And we just kind of put our heads together and said, man, these people need help, because coaches didn't know what to do. They were just lost. Do I need to do a Zoom session for everybody? No, so we got out of that, making, martinis out of lemons. Right. So out of that was born another company. So it's called Fit Pro Collective, where we help fitness professionals grow and scale their business.
Nice.
And then there's also a network called Apex that a lot of us know about. And I'm an executive coach for Apex, where I get to work with business owners from all different walks of life. And, that to me has been such a cool experience so far, because they call us coaches in the program. And I don't know that that's a really, really the best term to describe what we do, because yes, we coach, but we're also a connector. And so when people come into this network and they're like, hey, I need somebody for taxes. I need somebody to do a website. I need somebody to, help me unclutter my mind. I need a fitness person. Like, we help connect those people as well. And what I find is talking with all these different business owners, I learn just as much from them as they're learning from me. And
absolutely.
And probably more, because I get the diversity of talking to all these different people, where they just get me over and over again. But it's really fun. And the biggest thing I think is it's all aligned with my core values. So we talk about that a lot, of being solid in your core values. And it all aligns with my life mission, which is my life mission is leave people better, period. And I used to have this long, when we did mission statements and vision statements, all that shit, at some point I had to look up and go, well, what am I doing in the world that I really love doing? And why was I put here? And I truly believe it's to leave people better. So any opportunity that I get to do that and get paid, that's awesome.
Right. Well, and that's, and that's kind of the reward from it, right? Like there, of course you get all sorts of, uh, uh, personal development, business development. You get all sorts of education. I mean, look, being a part of communities, I'm a part of a couple different communities as well, especially in coaching, business coaching, life coaching, lifestyle coaching, and it's powerful because you're building these other parts of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And they really are these compartmentalized parts of your life that if you can just get that better, your financial life, your business life, you can just get these things better. Now, let me ask you a couple questions because you're doing a lot right now. And I know that, and we'll talk about even some other things that you haven't even mentioned yet. What, let's talk about the hat that you're wearing for a second. Like, I want to know, where did this phrase come from? Where did this following come from? This, kind of thing, because as you can see, I'm a little obsessed as well with what I'm about. Where did this come from? Because it's been stuck in my head for a minute.
Yeah. So make good choices. A few years ago, I had a client that would say it too. And honestly, like I don't know why, but there's a lot of Latin moms. So whether, Mexican, Central American, South American, that say that. And so it's kind of a prevalent saying, and it applies to everything in life, which is awesome. Right. So I had a client that he would say it sometimes, and I kind of adopted it. So, I would say it back to him when he'd leave the gym. I kept that saying going, and it became this thing where before people would walk out the door, no matter where I was in the gym, I'd yell. If I had to yell across the gym, I'd yell across the gym, make good choices. And everybody kind of laughs, and I don't know why, but it is kind of funny. It's like, yeah, I know. But what I started to understand was the power of the statement. Number one, it's simple. Like it's the most basic advice that you can have, right? Make good choices. Doesn't that sound like something that should improve all of our lives?
Right.
And the more that you do make good choices, in theory, the better your life should become. And whether that's in relationships, money, health and fitness, all those things. And what I started to really understand was people would come in the gym, and I'd get these stories like, hey, man, I went out to eat yesterday and I was going to have this big giant cheeseburger, but I had something else instead because I heard you in the back of my head going, make good choices.
Right.
And so I started to piece it together. I'm like, man, this is like really seeping into people's heads. And it became one of those things where it kind of, I don't want to say it took a life of its own, but, I'm on social media a lot and I post, multiple times a day, all the time. And so I just started using that tagline. And then I noticed other people start using it, and other people would write something, go, as my friend Marc says, make good choices.
Right.
So again, it's the most basic advice you can give someone. It's so generic, right? It's so subjective. Your good choice in your head may not be my good choice.
Right.
But at the same time, it's something that can bind us all, that we understand the concept behind it.
Well, and I think what's important about it is it sticks in people's head to where they're repeating it back to you.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
Like it's just do it. Like Nike. It's one of those things that you say it back. Well, when you say something back, you're registering that thing like 4,000 times stronger than just hearing something or seeing something visually pop in front of your face, especially in a world that we live in now. That's this 3-second world that we live in, right? Like, if it's not like, I mean, it's fantastic. I don't think you probably tried to do it that way.
No. I mean,
because it seems so genuine, but it really is one of those things that when I really started following you, I was like, God damn, I can't get this. You know, like every time that he's saying, you know, and I'm telling my wife and I'm telling my daughter, make good choices, make better choices, you know, and I'm kind of thinking like, is there another, make the best choice, right? Like I'm make the best choice you can, you know, I'm doing that with my daughter and, you know, and she's getting pretty stoked about it. Well, I know this has kind of led to even more, right? Because let's talk about, you know, you're an author, you started your own podcast, you know, where did all this come up?
So in Apex, we are all highly, highly, highly encouraged to write a book.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was something that was on my radar for, you know, way longer than I care to admit. I didn't have the framework. I didn't dedicate my time to it. You know, it was all on me. There was no excuse about it. But again, I believe all timing is the right timing. So when it came time to finally sit down and write the book, you know, I didn't want to write a health and fitness book. There's 1,000 of them out there. Nobody reads them. You know, nobody cares. Everybody's heard all the things before. You know, I don't need to show somebody that they need to go do squats or burpees or eat less food. Like there's plenty of that information out there. I wanted something different. I had been writing something that I call Mindset Monday for probably a good 2 years. I also read the Daily Stoic every single day. So if you don't know the Daily Stoic, it's a book by Ryan Holiday. It's a literal 1 page, half a page most of the time read that takes you, you know, 1 to 2 minutes and you're on with your day.
Right.
Stoicism has been a very huge influence in my life over the last probably 5 or 6 years now. And I like the concept of it. I like the concept of the way that book was. And the other thing I noticed too is people read, you know, there's this thing about, you know, how many books did you read? And, you know, I'm going to read a book a week and all that. And I'm not taking anything away from anyone. If that's float your boat, fantastic. But how much of that are you really retaining?
Yeah.
Are you really learning from the things that you're reading? And I wanted to create something that fostered that environment that allowed people to, you know, take a proverbial breath and go, okay, let me think about that. Let me like really marinate on what that means to me in my life, how that applies. Why do I feel a certain way when I read something? You know, sometimes we read things, we're like, you know, fuck that guy, you know, and then you come back to it, you're like, maybe there's some truth there. So this book came to be from all those posts that I had made. I basically went back and compiled 52 of them with the intention of somebody reading 1 per week. And really absorbing what it means. And there's a journal prompt for every one of them. So, you know, gives you a chance to kind of question things a little bit. But again, just absorb that lesson. Think about it. How does it apply to you? How can you make your world a little bit better or the people around you a little bit better from that? All this time, I'm putting this thing together. I'm like, what the hell am I going to call this book? Like, I got no idea, you know, and my editor was like, just wait. Don't worry about the title. The title usually comes last. You'll figure it out. And one day I'm on the phone with my buddy Chris, and like, I don't remember what we were talking about. And out of nowhere, I just stopped. I'm like, I'm an idiot. He's like, what? I go, the title of the book, it's Make Good Choices. He's like, oh. And it just fit. You know, it was such none of that was forced. And I was going to say before, you know, you talk about it's my tagline now, right? If I would have sat down with a focus group and said, all right, here's my mission and here's what I'm doing in the world and let's come up with something, I never would have came up with that. Like it wouldn't work. It would have been something cheesy and forced and whatever. And so that naturalness that has progressed throughout having the book, having the podcast that just seemed like a great extension of what I was already doing. It all just made sense. It all flowed. Nothing felt forced. And it feels right. You know, it feels in alignment.
And you can stand behind it, right? Like, I mean, that's the biggest thing is that because it was so natural, because you've done it over and over and over again, right? Like we've all had those, you know, like you said, taglines, I guess, you know, in life, you know, those trends, if you will, like that kids get into now and these kind of things that you do. Like I'll even hear TikTok songs and I'll be like, that song again? Like how many more dances can you do to that particular song where I hear, you know, bom, 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 and I'm like, oh, somebody's listening to TikTok. it is one of those things that it does apply to everybody. It is one of those lines and one of those phrases that people can really absorb in different perspectives of their lives, and that is a natural fit. So, I mean, that's phenomenal that you were able to find that. Now, let's talk about your executive coaching for a bit. So, I know you've had a long, experience with health and fitness, in entrepreneurship, with running your own gym. Was that great success that you had over the years to run a good, profitable business? Is that what really got you into trying to do more, I guess, as a business professional and getting into this group? Because I know that's a very selective group. I know that group, sometimes very well. A lot of the people on there, and it's a powerful group of connectors, if you will, like you said before, that, I know you have the Goon Squad, that's going to be coming up here pretty quick. I guess we can talk about that, because that's actually an extension of your Apex group. Talk about that for a second. What is Apex for those of, our listeners that don't know what that is? And who that is.
Apex is so hard to define.
Yeah.
Because it's grown into so much more than I think it was initially intended to be. So, for all intents and purposes, it's a mastermind group run by Ryan Stewman. And, he's got a huge sales background. And over the years, as his personal growth has developed into more of that whole, I don't like saying holistic, but it's a well-rounded approach of, we're not just going to work on your business. We're going to talk about your faith and your family and your fitness and finances and, all those things, or his G code, as he calls it.
Yeah.
It's grown into so much more. It's grown into this network of people striving to be the most elite version of themselves. That's really what Apex is all about. Yeah. So, to become elite, you have to improve everything about you. And you can't remain in the same spot that you are in any realm of your life, whether it's, your fitness needs to constantly be worked on. You need to be looking at your finances, or what are you doing with your money? You need to be growing your business, and not to make more money, but that's the impact. It's the impact that we can make from all these things. And you need to be pouring into your family and your friends and the people that care about you and you trust. So this network, I was fortunate enough to be at a gym where Ryan was working out years ago. So we would chit chat a little bit. I wasn't his coach at the time. We both left that gym a little bit later. We kind of reconnected. I became his coach, and I saw him evolving over the years. And at some point, I had hired a business coach prior to joining Apex, a great guy, Pat Rigsby. He was phenomenal.
I know Pat.
Pat's awesome guy.
He's been in it since the beginning, man.
Absolutely, yeah. He's he's an OG of the fitness game for sure. Yeah. But I got to a point where I was like, okay, I need more perspective. I need people not in my world to kind of learn from, and so I really dove into that Apex ecosystem. And so some of it obviously is intentional behavior on my part, investing, getting myself around the right people. As we talked about before, being the dumb one in the room. I'll be the dumb one in the room all day. Please let me be the stupid guy. Yeah. And then aligning myself with the right people to continue to foster my growth, where I was like, oh, these people are doing more and more and more in a good way.
Yeah.
Not a materialistic way, but they wanted impact, which is what I've always wanted. My other tagline is "Make America Fit Again."
Yeah.
Well, I can't make America fit again by my damn self. I can only handle so many people. But the bigger of an audience I can have, the more people I can help. If I can influence their lives and they change and they influence people, that trickle down effect is huge. So, I made the investment to join Apex at its highest level. And I was given an opportunity to be one of the coaches there. And again, a lot of it, some of it is my success. Some of it is who I am as a human being. Yeah. And the guys around me understanding who I am and what I bring to the table and the uniqueness that I have. Most people that know me will tell you I'm probably the happiest guy that they know.
Right.
And there's power in that, because there's a lot of miserable rich people out there.
Yeah, right.
And they wouldn't trade it all to be happy, but they would trade some of it to be happy.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, you know, there's some qualities that, you know, and again, this isn't to pat myself on the back, but there's some qualities that I naturally kind of possess that lend itself well to helping others and giving them perspective and finding the joy and the gratitude in life, which sometimes just that thing alone can shift the success that somebody has if they wake up and go, you know what? I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for the roof over my head and my kids and my dog and my truck and my business, even though it has problems. We all got problems.
Right.
Like you know, you choose your hard. Yeah. I think that's in my book somewhere. Like you choose your hard, you know, being out of shape is hard. Being in shape is hard. Being broke is hard. Being rich is hard. There's just different problems that all those things. But, you know, at some point as a grown ass person, we get to make that decision of which heart are we going to choose. And I've been on both sides of it too. And I think that's the other thing as a coach, knowing that there was a time I didn't make good choices. I wasn't making good choices, you know, in my finances, in my health and fitness, in my relationships. Like I was making terrible choices. And as I, you know, gradually shifted those things and then watched my life improve in every facet, I'm like, oh, well, imagine that, you know, you make some better decisions in life and shit gets better for you. What a concept. So, you know, I think you have to be able to speak to some of that as well. You don't need to have gone through everything that somebody else has gone through, but you definitely need some real world perspective on the ups and downs of life.
Let me ask you this then, Mark, you know, for somebody that has learned these lessons, you know, throughout the years and like you said, you know, you've made some bad, you know, terrible choices. I've made some terrible choices. You know, whether or not we learn from them, you know, right? That's really kind of, you know, how it all pans out. Why don't people reach out for help or to try to improve the situation even more? Why don't they reach out to a coach? You know, because I'm sure you deal with this a lot at a higher executive level than even myself. But, you know, I always like to know that answer, you know, because nobody ever tells you. They just either do it or they don't, right?
Right. So honestly, I mean, what I find is the higher up you go, the more people are willing to ask for help.
Yeah.
True. Like, at an executive level, I'll ask for help all day long. And so will everyone else around us, because what we understand, and that I think everyone needs to understand this, is when you ask for help, when you hire a coach, what you're doing is compressing time.
Exactly.
You know, so let's use health and fitness for example, because that's one everybody can kind of relate to. You know, somebody needs to lose 50 pounds.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm going to do it on my own. And they have no background in health, fitness, nutrition, weight training, nothing. They got, you know, Health and Fiction magazine and Karen down the road did keto once, right? So, you know, they find some plans in a magazine and they read about keto and they quote unquote try it for a little bit and it doesn't work. And, you know, and so they fumble around and maybe they do figure it out. You know, maybe eventually they figure it out 2 or 3 or 4 years later after losing weight and gaining weight and losing and gaining and losing and gaining and hurting themselves and, you know, all those things where if they were just willing to reach out and ask for help. And look, you don't even have to pay for help half the time. Like there's so many free resources out there. Like follow the right people. And I'm not, you know, don't follow me if you don't want to, but like if you follow the right people and pay attention to the lessons, they recycle at some point. Like I can only talk about the same shit so many times and at some point I'm talking about it again. So if you tap into the right resources and seek out the right help, you compress time.
Yeah.
So that 50 pounds only takes you 6 months to lose instead of 4 years to lose.
Yeah.
And so there's a, you know, I think there's a pride thing behind that. There's this illusion that everyone else has it figured out and I'm the only one that doesn't. And I should know how to do. Why should you know how to do this? I don't know how to play the guitar.
Right.
And if I want to learn how to play the guitar, you bet your sweet ass I'm going to hire somebody to come over to my house and teach me. 100%. I'm trying to learn that shit on my own. Are you kidding me?
Right. Exactly.
So, but people understand, you know, people understand those examples. But then when it comes to like the most important thing, improving your own personal life, I don't understand why people just don't go, hey, I need some help.
Yeah.
Like, I need some help.
And because there's an element of discomfort, and it takes longer than what they want it to. Everybody wants a quick fix. They want something that they don't have to put effort into. They want something that's easy, right? Just the same as scrolling through, Facebook and Instagram, like as soon as that thing shut down yesterday, people were going bonkers. It was absolutely nuts, but it is one of those instant gratification type things. I think that a lot of people, they want it all, right? But they don't, they're not willing to do it all.
Yeah. And what they don't understand too is, especially social media is so great. I mean, I love social media, but for a lot of people, it does not serve a healthy role. And so you're looking at everyone's highlight reel, and there's a handful of people out there that are, they're vulnerable, and they put their, Sean Whalen, I think, is a great example. Ryan Stewman is also a great example. Just, they tell their story, they put their shit out there. But the problem is most people still only see the highlight reel. They don't see, not only do they not see what you did 10 years ago and 5 years ago and the work you've been putting in, for the last 2 or 3 years, they also don't know what you're doing today either. Like, all they see are my funny memes and Cadbury eggs and my hat and, all this, which is fine. That's what I would like them to see that, but they don't see the work that I'm doing day in and day out. They don't see me kicking my own ass in the gym. They may know that I do it, or they may think they know because I talk about it sometimes, but they don't see me like running into the gym, like, like dying next to my clients. Like, people don't see those things. So they think that, others have it all together, or everything is just fantastic and great. And look, my life's pretty great. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a pretty happy guy. Like, I'm not going to complain about a whole lot, but there's so much work that's being done in the background and off camera and behind the scenes. And the people close to know that, the people close to you see that. They see the work and they see the dedication to it, but everyone else does it, and they think they're just supposed to be able to do it.
And the absolute grind, right? Because, here you are, you're a business owner, right? And, and there's people out there that they look at entrepreneurs or business owners like, oh, well, yeah, but they just, they do that, and this is what you get. Yeah. It's not that. No. How about you bite the bullet? How about if I told you, hey, spend $100,000, and then in 3 years, we're going to give you $300,000. Right. And then you got to pay taxes on that, or you got to do this, or like, what? What are you, crazy? But that's the type of, abstract thought pattern that people need to see, instead of, like like you were saying, like Stewman, like Whalen, sure, these guys are talking about, absolute crazy stuff, but everybody's got crazy stuff. Like you said, you're good, you're bad, you're bads. Now, where did all this come from? Because, I know somebody just doesn't, wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm going to run a business, I'm going to start a podcast, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to be an executive coach. I mean, you have all this stuff going on. Where did it come from?
So, I went to college, I got a degree in kinesiology. Yeah. And there's not much you do with that. You can go be a trainer, or you go back to school, or you go be a teacher. And I'm like, no. Right. So, I started, this will date me. I started working at Bally Total Fitness. Remember that one? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So my career started there. I worked at Lifetime Fitness for a few years, and I went out on my own after that. Like every other good coach at any gym, goes, man, why am I giving the gym half of my money? I could take all my money. And you realize real quickly that's not the case. But so, I left the big box gym and on my own ever since. And, for a long time, I really just kind of identified myself as a personal trainer. People, go, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm a personal trainer. Several years ago, I started listening to Tim Ferriss. And if you don't know who Tim Ferriss is, he's got always one of the #1 podcasts in the world. You name it. He's had people on there, long interviews, like 2-3 hours, where like Joe Rogan before Joe Rogan came along,
Wow.
And I started listening to him and the people that he had on his show. and it really began to expand my world. You know, at the time I wasn't reading a whole lot. I mean, I've probably read more since I started actually listening to his podcast than I had the rest of my life. But it made me want to explore more of me and become more than just, you know, the personal trainer. You know, I'm known as the fitness ninja. So you know, I started to get this yearning of like, there's more for me to do. There's more impact to make. And I didn't know what that meant. I had no idea where it was going to take me. I just knew that I wanted something else, that I didn't want this like nonstop grind of the gym. And I was around good coaches, but not great ones. I was around people that made good money, but not great money. I was around people that had good business, but not great business. And at some point I had this, I don't know, it's like this discontent internally of like, I know there's more than this, and I know I'm capable of more, and I'm going to go find it somewhere. And I believe that there's power in intention. And my wife blows me away because she always talks about manifestation. And I used to blow her off, like, yeah, you know, just manifest.
Sure.
You know, just put it out in the universe, you know. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I only had to see it happen, I don't know, a dozen times for her. I'm like, all right, maybe there's something to this manifestation thing. So I think over time, it's just been a slow, you know, I haven't had any like points in my life where I feel I was just skyrocketing through, you know. I mean, the last couple of years of my life have been amazing, but then I'm also around other people doing even bigger shit. So it like keeps me very humble, which is awesome. Everyone needs a good humbling. It's good for the soul. So, you know, you get around the right people and you stay in that circle. You mentioned the Goon Squad earlier. You know, that's 5 of my friends that we've all met through the Apex Network. We've all bonded. We're all fathers and husbands and coaches and business owners. And we're all in kind of the same stage of evolution of our career where we're going through the same things together. And when you see that, and you can align with people that get that, you know, not everybody understands that. Not everybody's supposed to understand it. You know, when you're making good money and you start talking about your problems, most of the world goes, oh, well, must be nice. You know, must be nice to worry about it. Yeah, it is nice. Yeah. But they're still my problems. Regardless of, you know, I don't wake up and worry about where I'm going to eat or if my family's going to be persecuted for their religion, but I got my own problems and they're still mine, you know, and I keep perspective and I'm grateful for what I have. But this is still the world that I live in. So I have to deal with my own shit. And so, you know, just being around these people really motivates me. It encourages me. It keeps my mind open to what's possible out there. And, you know, when you start to see the impact that you can make on people, the book being a great example, you know, I get DMs of people, you know, screenshotting something from my book. And it's like, oh man, I had a lady message me a couple of weeks ago. She's like, I was reading this morning. It brought me to tears. And I'm like, wow. Like, it's still real weird when that happens. But that's the power, right? Like that's work that I did at some point that I felt compelled enough to not keep it to myself, to put it out there and share it. And now somebody that, you know, I may or may not ever meet in my life is sending me a message saying that she's in tears, good tears, because a message that I wrote hit home.
Yeah.
What more can 100%. I ask for? That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, in like you said, you know, that you put the work in for, you know, because you're right. I think that, you know, success and failure leave clues, but people love to pick on failures and they love to kind of pick things apart. And I don't mean that like, you know, people are kind of, you know, picking at it, but like you said, it's almost like, oh yeah, well, must be horrible where you live, right? Like you know, you wrote a book. Oh, you know, like there's always the naysayers, you know, and that's always the tough thing because, you know, you always want to take those people and shake them and be like, look, you got no, you know, you got no idea because there are some challenging times and your problems are your problems, you know, and they might not seem big or small to other people, but you got to handle them, you know. You know, do you think that being around, because this is kind of an extension inside of Apex, the Goon Squad, where are you guys taking that? I mean, is that going to be a speaking opportunity for everybody to be able to teach what they've learned? You got some pretty dynamic people that are
Yeah.
involved with that.
Yeah, there's a uniqueness to the six of us. You know, we all have a very specific skill set. We all have something very different that's got us to the point we're in. And, you know, one of the biggest things that we really want to convey is the power of that syndicate. You know, the group within the group, because there's all these, you know, there's Apex and Lion's Den and Arate and, you know, there's some really great programs out there, but a lot of people get lost in there too, you know, and if they're not intentional about making connections and finding people that align with themselves, they're just in the fray like everyone else. And it's something for us that happened very organically. You know, again, it wasn't something where, you know, we had a roundtable discussion and there were 12 of us and then we went, okay, you're out and you're out. And we don't like you. And, you know, nothing like that happened. We kind of came together very naturally, realized that there was some very synergistic energy between us, and then just rolled with it. So, you know, a lot of the things that we're going to be doing moving forward, you know, we're going to be doing live events where we're speaking and talking about the things that have got us to where we are. We're definitely honing in on the power of that group and what the group has meant individually to each one of us and how we support each other and helping other people go find their own goon squad. And really, you know, as we evolve, we get to evolve our message and we get to continue to bring people up as well. Because there's been so many before us that have done the same exact thing. You know,
100%. Well, and I think when we grew up, you know, it was really more listening to the CDs of, you know, and the cassette tapes and, you know, all these fun things of Tony Robbins and the Zig Ziglars and the Brian Tracys and, you know, all these, you know, these old guys, right? Compared to us, but now we're kind of the old guys, but we're learning, you know, from the greats that are out there doing it as well. You know, it's powerful what you said about community, because I think people need to hear this right now. You know, you said something that was interesting that, you know, and I don't exactly know how you said it, but, you know, finding that group, right? Find your own goon squad, like find your own group of people that are leveling you up instead of tearing you down, like that you're surrounded. You know, it's almost like, you know, you join a sports team. You know, I'm not going to join a sports team that I'm in the best shape out of everybody there, because it's going to be stupid. Like, that's not good. Like, we're going to lose, you know, like somebody's going out with an injury. You know, I want to find people that are maybe in better shape than me, that or know that the game a little bit better, right? They're going to bring up to my level, you know, or I'm going to go up to their level, you know, essentially. So that's powerful what you said. Now, you know, if we go further back, right, in time a little bit, like, how were you brought up? I mean, was there somebody influential, you know, in your life that kind of pointed you in this direction of entrepreneurship, leveling up, taking it to the next level? I mean, because you seem to have this, you know, you're constantly being worked on, you know, in other words, like it's that old souped up car that you just keep, you know, dumping money into. You know, it's powerful, but you drive it, right? So you're out there jamming too, you know, and there's maintenance that's needed. You know, where did all this come from?
It's interesting if you're introspective enough and you look back. You know, we're stupid when we're young, but you see you were being taken to school nonstop and you didn't even know it. So my dad was always a salesman. He sold pianos and shoes and houses and transmissions and cars. I mean, you name it, he sold it. And growing up, when I was in high school, like he had his own car lot. I grew up in Sherman, Texas. So it was his own car lot. He had like one dude that worked for him that detailed the cars. And, you know, we'd have 20, 30 cars out on a car lot in front of our house. You know, like we lived on some land. We lived in like one of those big, you know, we lived in a double wide that when you walked in, like you didn't know you were in a mobile home. It was, you know, my dad was always bougie in that manner. But I didn't realize at the time, like all the sales things that he did. So he, you know, he hated working for people. he, a couple of times he'd work with or for someone and it never lasted. He was right back to doing his own thing again. And again, I didn't realize at the time, like I was really observing more than I knew of the way that he talked to people, the way he interacted with customers, the way that he quote unquote sold. And he had a very laid back approach. Like he was never, hard closing people on anything, which is the same approach I use. Right. So I had that again, later in life, I started to realize what that type of influence was. And then I had my grandmother, and I talk about my grandma in the book. She was, she's probably the happiest person I've ever met in my life. In the last 15 years of her life, she had cancer like 3 times. She had strokes and high blood pressure and diabetes, she had all the things. Thankfully, never lost her cognitive ability, up until the very end, knew what was going on, knew who everyone was, never a time that I called her or saw her, she didn't know my name or whatever. But that woman walked around with a smile on her face and gratitude for every day that she had. And, she'd wake up in the morning just to no one, just out loud, she's like, thank you, God, for another day. And again, I didn't realize how much that was really sticking with me until later in life. And it's part of the reason that I have the disposition that I have. I think some of it's natural. It's just, part of my DNA. Sure. But seeing that example and knowing that the physical pain that she was going through, yet she made a choice, a conscious decision to operate with joy and to be happy and to put a smile on her face and put that out to other people. Like, what the hell am I complaining about then? What do I really have to complain about, knowing 100%. What she went through, and my problems in my head are minuscule compared to hers. So do I complain sometimes? Of course I do, because there's stupid people in traffic in the world. Right. What am I going to do about that? But as a whole, I really try to check myself as much as possible. And, if I'm legitimately complaining about something, then I'm like, okay, well, what's the solution then? Because if I don't have one, I need to shut my mouth. And if I do have one, then I need to put it in play and make it happen.
Well, and that's, and I think that obviously your training in health and fitness and what you've learned over the years about really helping people, because the reality of it is that your mind-body connection. I mean, if you think you're going to lose, you're going to lose. And if you're going to be negative Nancy, you're going to be negative Nancy. But, the idea of your grandmother influencing, because that is powerful, right? The powerful, things that she was putting in your head on a daily basis. You didn't know, like you said, you didn't know you were being schooled. You didn't know you were being schooled by your dad. You didn't know you were being schooled by your grandmother, but that positive energy and that soft clothes. I mean, that's a powerful combination, right? And then your physical body, you've taken good care of yourself, and people don't understand that that's a huge part of how you come out and your perception of things, and you having self-esteem and you having confidence and you having just the chemical makeup to be able to do things on a regular basis, because that's a huge part of life, right? Like, where did this come, out? I mean, why did you want to get into health and fitness?
I got into health and fitness because I failed organic chemistry.
Okay. All right. Gotcha.
I was going to college to be a chiropractor. Again, just, I don't know. I thought, it'd be a good profession. I get to help some people. Right. Yeah, and I hit organic chem, and it's to this day, I have no idea what was happening in that class. I had tutoring and I went after school, nothing. And I dropped it. And I realized that chiropractic college had more organic chemistry than any other science. So I'm like, all right, well, time to do something different. So, again, I think the timing is always what it's supposed to be. And, I'm a firm believer that I am where I'm supposed to be. And, it's something that's hard for a lot of people, I think, to swallow, is like, you are where you are because you're supposed to be there. Yeah. And there's been plenty of frustrating times in my life where I'm like, why am I still here? Or why am I still struggling with this or that or whatever? And, I just try to look around at the people around me and go, I'm supposed to be in their lives right now, or they're supposed to be in my lives. And if I was anywhere else, that wouldn't be the case. Yeah. And the same holds true right now. Again, it's not just when you're struggling, like when things are good, you're also right where you're supposed to be. And the people that are supposed to be in your life are there, and you're supposed to be there for them.
Well, and I think that a lot of times, and I've struggled with this, and I'm sure that you have as well, and I'm sure you've known people that have struggled with this, is that they don't celebrate the wins enough. And even they're small enough to where they might not be very big wins in people's eyes, or they're gigantic wins in people's eyes, but they're small to you. You don't celebrate them enough. You kind of have this like, okay, what's next? Okay, what's happening next? Do you ever get like that as a high performer? I'm sure you do.
So there's things in our goon squad. We have an ongoing Facebook chat, and there's things that we share in there that we don't really share anywhere else.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is those wins. It's those wins that, you don't want to come off douchey. You don't want to come off as like, ooh, look at me. But we know our heart. We know the intention. We know the work that was put in to make some of those things happen. So we do share those, and we're very selective with the people we share certain things with. Same goes for Apex. There's certain things that get shared at our executive level that no one else sees. It's not on their own personal Facebook page. They're not sending emails out about it, but they know they can share it in that container because it's people who understand it. So it's a very real thing that people feel like, and it's sad, but people feel like they can't celebrate a big win because you're going to get a bunch of haters, because you are going to get a bunch of haters. Every time Stewman posts anything about any of his cars or watches or something, somebody's like,
he's getting
you could have donated that to charity. Well, how much do you donate to charity? Well, shut the fuck up. That's just the reality of it. Like, people are always going to hate because of their own insecurity. So, again, nobody's required to broadcast all their shit to everyone. But I think it's important to have some people that you can go, hey, I just had my first $1 million year. Yeah. Or hey, we just bought our dream cars.
Yeah.
Or, whatever it may be. And again, that it's not about the thing, it's about the work it took to get to that point.
100%. 100%. Well, let me ask you this. I mean, we could probably sit here and gab off, each other's ears for 2-3 hours, but I guess, for you being where you're at right now and kind of learning, throughout the years, failures and success, of course. I mean, what would, I guess, be a piece of advice? It's a 2-part question. I want it to be for individuals out there, non-business owners, and then I want business owners as well. Like, what is one good piece of advice that you would have for them?
Well, I think it all goes back, and this applies to literally every person. I think it all goes back to core values. Yeah. And if somebody hasn't gone through the exercise of determining what their core values are, then that is step one. And, that exercise alone has changed the way that I operate, because I have 4 core values. They're integrity, intention, empathy, and entertainment. Mm-hmm. And so I use those. Those are my personal core values. Those are my business core values. And I use those as a filter for all my decision making. So when an opportunity comes, I go, okay, does it align with those things? And if it does, it's a no-brainer. And if it doesn't, it may look shiny and the pay may be good for a little bit and it may seem like fun, but at some point I know from history, I'm going to hate it. I'm going to regret it. I'm going to partner with the wrong person, whatever the case may be. So, regardless of whether you're a business owner or not, I think core values are the foundation of everything that we do. And most of us have them, but we haven't taken the time to solidify what those are and what they actually mean to us. So when you can operate your relationships, your finances, your business, your friendships, like all those things through core values, every piece of your life will improve because it will feel better. It will feel more natural, and that abundance that we all search for, I believe, just, it manifests itself because you're actually being intentional about your actions and what you allow to come into your mind and your body and in your soul.
Yep. 100%. And I want you to elaborate a little bit on that. I know that, that's, when you're talking about core values, somebody could be like, okay, sure, Mark. Yeah, I'll get my core values or my mission statement or whatever I want to go by. Like, I have mine, and I already know the answer to this, but I want somebody else to hear the answer to this. So when you're up against, something, is it Like, hey, do I hang out with this person or do I make this connection, whether it's business or personal? Do I line it up against those core values, however many there are? There could be three, there could be two. I mean, one, that's more really, I guess, a mission statement, unless you got a lot of value behind it, but it's really, it could be whatever it is. What do you do up against that? Like, give me an example for us to hear. Like, how would you have something line up with your core values, or put it up against and see if it fits? And if it doesn't, make a tough decision.
I think most people understand what integrity is, and
Yeah.
and a lot of the guys that I run with, that's one of their number one core values is integrity. And integrity is,
Yeah.
doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, whether anybody's watching or not. And like I'll give you a really good example. One of my coaching clients, we were on the phone the other day, and he goes, "Hey, I noticed that my payment didn't go through last month." And this is for Apex, so the money's not coming directly to me, but he goes, who do I need to talk to? So could he, and it's a good chunk of money, right? So could he have just been like, oh, they didn't charge me, I guess, we'll just hope nobody sees it.
Right.
But no, this is the guy with integrity, because he's like, you know what? I pay to be here just like everyone else in the room, and I want to make sure I uphold my commitment.
Yeah.
That's integrity right there.
Yeah.
And that's
100%.
such an easy thing, especially when it comes to money. Like, people have such scarcity with money to go, you forget to ring something up in your card, or they, somebody,
100%.
like, what do you do about that?
Yeah.
Do you speak up? Do you go back into the store and go, hey, I forgot to ring the toilet paper up. I forgot it was on the bottom of my cart. Or do you just go, what? It's only $10, right? Or probably like 15 now, whatever. But
well, let me ask you this then. Like, when you're going through things like integrity, you're right. That should be like in the front of everybody's mind, 100%. But let's talk about maybe some other, core values that they have, in your head. Do you catch yourself? Because I know I do with Provoke. I have it. It's an acronym. I'm an acronyms guy. That's just how it works, right? Like, I know how it all plays out. Like, I will take that action, and sometimes I guess, you should probably think before you speak. Well, I do that in my head, so I'm good. But you put it up against, I mean, do you do that as well? Do you put it up against these core values and be like, that just doesn't feel right? Like, I mean, now I'm going against empathy as an example, right?
So
Like,
if I have a coach in my gym, I need them to be somewhat empathetic, and they're good. Right. There's different levels to that, but sure. I'm not going to have someone in my gym that's just a complete hard ass for no other reason than being a hard ass. They may be a great trainer. They may get awesome results. They may have a huge clientele, but that's not someone that I'm going to align 100%. With, because that's not the way that I operate. And that's not the vibe and the feeling that I want in my gym. Do we push our people? Absolutely. Do we hold them accountable? Absolutely. But are we willing to meet them where they are? And are we willing to adjust as needed? And if they're having a bad day, are we willing to go, okay, that's okay. You can have a bad day.
Yeah.
Like, sure. What can I do to help you, instead of going, well, you still got 50 burpees to do, so get them done.
Right.
Is that really helping that person in the moment? And again, there's people that operate that way, and they want to run their business that way because that's the way that they train. I have no problem with that, but that's not the way that I operate my business. And I'm not going to partner up with somebody or have someone in my environment that operates in that way. So, it's things like that. And again, the other person isn't wrong. And it's not I'm right and they're wrong. No, it's what fits for me and my environment that is.
And they're your core values, right? Yeah. Like, they're your core values, yours, your business, they're yours, and, I think that's powerful. Well, but I think that people just don't have a lot of core values, or they just don't know, and they haven't said them out loud. They haven't written them down. They haven't lived by them. They haven't died by them. They haven't repeated them back, to where they know. Because I think that you're right. I think that when you run those 4 against situations in business and in your personal life, you just know. And does that, I guess for me, it allows me to move a little bit faster and make
Absolutely.
decisions faster. Is that the same for you as well? Like, oh, sorry, like, I got 3 out of 4 here. Sorry, bud, and move on. Do you
Yeah.
do that faster, you think?
Way faster.
Yeah.
Way faster. Because again, a lot of that's experience of knowing, okay, what were the poor choices that I made, or the poor business decisions, or the places I didn't do the right thing with my money or whatever, and understanding the difference between that when I didn't operate with that set of values and what I do now when I do operate with that set of values, in the ease, not only the success, you define it however you want, but the success of the decision making, but the ease that I have internally of like, oh, it just feels right. Again, the Goon Squad's a great example. We just lined up. So, like we have an LLC, we have a business entity, and it happened in about 6 messages back and forth. Hey, we should start a company. You want to do that? Okay, cool. Awesome. Anybody opposed? Nope. All right, good. Let's do it. But there was an ease to it because every one of us knows what the other one is about, and it lined up for all of us. So it totally made that decision super, super easy. And to your point, it's speed. And Thomas, our friend Thomas Keenan, he said one day, he's like, speed's the new currency, man.
Yeah.
Like if you can move fast and jump on an idea when you have it, somebody else has that idea out there. You're not the only one, but if you can get out there with it first, oftentimes you're going to be the one that wins.
Yeah. Well, and that's powerful what you said, because that it does speed things up. When, I know for a fact that when I want to produce more, as far as productivity, I want to get things done faster. It's a game that I play with myself, but, it's almost like you line things up, and then and then you're able to take them out because you've lined them up. If I would have never lined them up, it's like, okay, what am I aiming at? What am I doing? What's happening right now? I don't even have a plan of action. I'm just gonna, try to go after it. Well, wow, man. Well, listen, this has been absolutely awesome. We got to definitely have, a part 2, or, maybe a different, type. We'll flip it around. Maybe I could get on your show one day,
Absolutely.
whatever the case may be, but awesome conversations as always. I've had the tickler here at the bottom going, this is all your right information here, right? Facebook, Instagram, you can see all this. Make Good Choices podcast. And then of course, your book as well, Make Good Choices. That's on Amazon, or is it on Kindle?
It's on Amazon.
Amazon, awesome. And is there an audio version as well?
There's not an audio version. I've been asked that.
Not yet. Right?
I'm trying to figure out how to facilitate a year-long audio version of it. So when I figure that out, we'll make it happen.
Hey, listen, technology is a wonderful thing, so I'm sure you'll get it done. Well, awesome. I'm going to hang out, have you hang out here just for a couple minutes as we let everybody else off the line. Everybody else that's listening, hey, wow, if you like this podcast episode, share it. You know what to do. Subscribe, leave a review, kind of the gambit here. As always, provoke positive change in people, and of course, your peak performance as well. We'll talk to you.